This is Heresy, the miniature wargaming talk show. In this video, we're going to be talking about Epic Warpath by Mantic Games. We're going to be talking about why I'm choosing to back this game and why I think you should too. Now, this isn't the kind of video I would normally make, but I think it's definitely worth 10 or 15 minutes of your time to listen to this if you've not heard of Epic Warpath before, or if you're already looking at Warpath and thinking of jumping in. In this video, we're going to talk about what is Epic Warpath. We're going to talk about why I think it's going to be really good. And then we're also going to talk about why Mantic Games as well. Why maybe for people who traditionally only buy games from Games Workshop might want to consider looking at this too. But before we do that, if you enjoy the channel, please do like and subscribe. And if you've got any comments or questions on this video, Epic Warpath, anything like that, please leave them in the comments section below as well. And now on with the show. So what is Epic Warpath? Well, it's a 10-12mm sci-fi miniatures game that's currently on Kickstarter with a week or so left to go. There are 5 factions in the game, so diverse factions, aliens, humans, classic sci-fi stuff. And there's 2 more as well that are either going to follow on release or we might unlock during the Kickstarter if we're lucky. So Epic Warpath is set in Mantic's Warpath universe, which has been around for quite a while. Pretty cool universe, maybe not as well fleshed out as some of the universes that we're used to, but great factions, really interesting, and really nice models as well in general. The game's designed by Alessio Cavatore, probably one of the best games designers of all time, certainly for those of us who've played Games Workshop for a long time, designed some of the best games, Mordheim, some of the best editions of Warhammer Fantasy as well, and also Mantic Games as well, so, they've had their designers involved too, and as I mentioned, currently on Kickstarter. This is a real Kickstarter, so Mantic Games are a fairly well-known company, but they're not a behemoth, and the Kickstarter, I believe, is a proper Kickstarter, so they're looking to do this to be able to actually make the game, to spend all the money they need to spend to bring the game to life. Now, I'm not a big Kickstarter backer normally. I don't like the fact that it's a pre-order system nowadays. I think it's a pretty awful ecosystem, but when it's used properly by people who want to get a project off the ground, I think it's great. And so that's what Epic Warpath is, and that's what we're talking about. Why do I think Warpath is going to be good, though? Well, if you watch this channel, if you listen to me, you'll know one of the big things I'm interested in is rules. For me, models can be great, everything else can be great, but what you really need is a good rule set. And that's a thing that a lot of us are maybe not used to having with certain other games that we play, certainly not having those things well looked after release either. Mantic, in my opinion, make really great rule sets. And Alessio Cavatore, as I mentioned, is a great designer. So between these 2 things, I think Warpath is going to be really good. You can check the rules out yourself on the Kickstarter. There's info there, there's links, there's videos, gameplay, and about the rules as well. Now, I've played other Mantic games as well, which have also got great rules. I'm starting to become quite a fan over the last sort of 12 months I've been looking at Mantic, and I've got no reason to think Warpath won't be just as great as their other games. Now, the models that you will see in the game are somewhat familiar, but, also a little bit different as well. So you'll see sort of echoes of things you're used to seeing in sci-fi games, but they do have some cool stuff, like they got space rats, kind of space skaven. They got space dwarfs in dwarf power armor. It's a really cool universe. The models are really cool. And although a lot of the bigger scale models may not be quite at the standards of some other companies, they are really good. They look really cool on the tabletop. And the Warpath stuff scaled down to small scale looks really awesome as well, as you can see in these pictures and as you'll see on the Kickstarter. And I think that will also look great on the tabletop. Small scale games in general for me are awesome. And the other mainstream option that we've got recently for small scale games is a little bit, sigh. I think we're all struggling with that at the minute. I've wanted to play a small scale game for a long time because I played Epic when I was younger, and I've been pretty disappointed recently, so I'm really excited that another small scale game is going to come along and maybe fill that niche. What I think a lot of people will be asking, though, is why Mantic deserve your money for this, or, why you would want to maybe go outside of the places where you would normally buy games and buy a different game in a different universe. Well, I can't stress this enough, Mantic make great rule sets. I've been playing Mantic games a little bit for about 12 months or so. I've been playing Kings of War. I've been playing Firefight, which is their sort of 40k equivalent. I've been playing a little bit of Dead Zone, which is kind of a kill team equivalent. They're all great games. Some of them have been around for a long time as well. They're very good games. They're well put together. Mantic look after their games well, I think. And I think on that front, they beat their other competitors absolutely hands down. And again, if you care about rules and balance and you get disillusioned with games with bad rules or balance like I do, this is a really great place to be. And I think that works out really well, or bodes really well for Warpath into the future as well. Mantic have player-run rules committees for all of their games. So these are maybe what you would call playtesters in other games, although they separate the two. The rules committees obviously do playtest as well. So they've got player-run rules committees that make recommendations, and they work with the Mantic game designers to balance the games long-term. How great is that? That's basically everything that most of us in the competitive Games Workshop scenes have been asking for a long time, is just to do something like that. Mantic do it. And so I think we can trust them with their playtesters, committed playtesters. There's a long history of playtesters in other games, or rumours at least of playtesters maybe not actually doing that much playtesting. And it's very clear looking at some of the rule sets we've seen that they're not playtested. Mantic have all that solved. In my opinion, it's very obvious to see when you look at their games. So I definitely think they're a safe bet on the rules front. And they do support their games long term as well. They get regular updates. They get regular releases. There's none of this radio silence where we don't know if the game's ever even going to get a release again. Anything like that. Definitely a safe company, I think, because they care about their games. They're their babies and they're a small company, so they care about them. To add on to that as well, you can actually buy stock, and that might sound a bit flippant and a bit silly, but it's becoming an increasing problem with some of the other games that some of us want to play, is just actually being able to buy the models. And if you can buy the models, there's other people who can't buy the models. Like, I've got everything I need for Legions Imperialis, but almost everyone else I know hasn't, and therefore I can't play the game. And a lot of people are also stopping playing the game or not playing the game when they might have, because they don't want to deal with stock issues. Nobody does. So being able to get that stock is a big deal, as silly as that sounds. They've also got very reasonably priced plastics. So if you look at the plastics on their website across their games, they're pretty cheap for what you get. And a lot of them, the modern plastics are very good as well. Some of the resin stuff can be pretty expensive, but most of their resin stuff has moved to the digital, their 3D printable stuff, which we'll talk about in a sec. So easy to get the plastics, and they're cheap. And for Warpath in particular, about a 50% discount on retail for the Kickstarter right now. So you can buy in, get yourself a whole army, potentially for not much money at all. There's really no drawback. It's definitely a great thing to take a punt on. Another thing I really like about Mantic is they've got a digital companion that actually works. It's got all the rules in it. It gets the expansion rules in it as well. It's got an army builder that's actually up to date and works. And you can get this on a sort of game-by-game basis for like £3 a month, or you can just get it for all of their games, which is nice, if you play even two of them for very little money at all. I think I pay like £7 a month and I get an army builder and all the rules for all of their games constantly up to date. You can't really say fairer than that. And they've also got a 3D printing thing as well. Now, I won't go into too much detail about this because I'll talk about it for ages if I do. But all of their resin models are slowly being released in what they call the Mantic Vault. Now, I pay early bird. I pay like £3 a month for it. And I get bunches and bunches of resin models in there for that. So I don't have to go out and buy the resin. They also release the upgrades as well. So I can buy plastic models for Mantic. I 3D print weapon options and glue them to them. And Warpath's got a very similar thing. So they've got their core plastic range, then they got a bunch of resin stuff. On the Kickstarter, they will also give you the STLs. So instead of resin, you buy the STLs, and then all these support units, titans, giant models, etc., you just print them yourself. How great's that? So it's incorporated into the game, and you can buy the plastics and also 3D print the extra stuff, which is perfect. So that's everything I'm going to say on the topic. Just a quick video to let you all know that this is out there, really. I think it's a great bet. I think it's a great time to buy into a game that really doesn't have a functioning equivalent, in my opinion, in the market today. There's lots of small-scale, very niche games out there with really good rule sets as well, admittedly, that I've played over the years. but you basically can't find an opponent for them. And what we really want for these small scale games is a mainstream company to release one and actually support it. And Mantic are the people doing that at the minute. So if you're into this kind of thing, I'd highly recommend it. If you're not and you're just listening to this video out of interest, I'd highly recommend checking Mantic's other games out anyway. But, there you go. Hopefully that's a bit of an eye-opener for at least some people. So that's the end of the show. Thanks very much for listening. Do check back if you're listening to this during the Kickstarter for some other videos I'm going to have out in the next few days, just going a little bit more into detail about Warpath. And hopefully you'll buy in, join in, and when the Warpath Kickstarter comes out, I'll see you for some games and some tournaments. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.